Welcome to another episode of Two Average Joes, where we're being extremely average right now. Lots going on, Mr. Baker. Something really horrible happened up in your neck of the woods in Michigan with the school shooting there.
Yeah, there was a shooting at the Oxford High School, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And, four kids are dead. I think they're ranged in age from 14 to 6 to 18 or 17.
Mm-hmm.
And they just arrested the parents either last night or the previous day. On CNN, the news source I don't really trust, but they had reported, or they had evidently had two attorneys, one of them, which I actually know, say that they were going to turn themselves in. Well, they caught them in Detroit, which is right across the border from Canada,
right,
yesterday. And now they have set their bond at $500,000 each, which we talked in the pre-show that, I always advise my clients to turn themselves in to preclude that. Because you go, hey, look, Judge, we showed up. We are not fleeing. So now they are viewed as a flight risk. So that's why the high bond.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've experienced that in your career.
Yes. People, deciding to run to think it's going to help them.
Yeah.
If you are listening to this, that's a bad idea.
Horrible idea.
It's interesting. In the time we were doing it, the news cycle moves pretty fast. And I think there's some interesting stuff that happens with the schools when you get these school shootings. And I think that everybody, when I was teaching school, I was always consistent of letting my students know, and these were high school students, that there's not many events that happen out of the blue. I know that people don't want to believe that. I think people have this almost belief system that there's like the world's a gigantic coincidence. Okay, that's even people that wouldn't admit that they think like that. If you broke them down and really had them explain to for them to explain to you how they think happens, they think the luck of the draw is really there. Okay, and they'll give you all sorts of intellectual reasons for that, and they're wrong. Okay, because very little happens in a coincidence. Okay, they'll go, it was a tragedy. They died. A drunk driver killed her. It was just a terrible tragedy. And I'm like, yeah, that person drove drunk every day of his life for how long, and nobody stopped them?
Yeah.
Tragedy for the person that's dead, but no surprise to those that knew the drunk driver. Okay.
Yeah,
and nobody intervened. And the interesting thing about the school shootings is one of the things, if you look at it, is that they are always people who people knew were going to do it. Okay. And many, many, many people leave a gigantic trail of evidence that they were thinking this. And that's the consistency of it all. Okay. And the real strange part of that is how much our society, especially groups who are bureaucrats and who are walking this thin line of not wanting to be accusatory and not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings, okay, are constantly put behind the 8 ball when bad things happen. Don't want to act like I'm an expert on the case. I'm not, and that's okay, because nobody's an expert on that case except a few police officers that have worked on it. Everybody else is just making crap up. And at least I feel like I can directly talk about some of it. But just looking at over one of the stories was, and I want to do this, he drew or had some artwork that he made that was pretty violent.
Yes.
So I'm going to read you this. I want to read it specifically. At no time did counselors believe the student might harm others based on his behaviors, which appeared calm. In addition, despite media reports, whether or not a gun was in his backpack has not been confirmed by law enforcement. Okay? To make that easy for you to understand, and let me get this because I want to make sure I say this right. Okay. He had some very violent drawings and basically said, they're video games, man. Okay. The teacher is so concerned, and I want to make sure I get this right, but that she told the student counselors and the dean of students Okay. And they talked to him. He explained what it was, and they went and said, oh, okay, that's all that is. He's not going to harm anybody. Okay. That's the problem with everything. Is that, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm not defending the school, nor am I criticizing the school, because I have been a police officer. I worked in the school systems. I've taught at a high school. I understand that you cannot just go out and snatch everybody up and say they're going to be a killer and throw them out of school. I understand that. But there has to be something better than the present system that we have. Okay? And what it seems to be is there is always, when it comes down on the side of logic, that they're going to turn off some of the obvious red flags because they don't want to believe the kids are going to do anything wrong. Okay. And here's what I can hear some educators I knew, and I respect them. They just happen to be wrong all the time when they were talking. They would, this would be their argument to me. They'd go, well, Joe, if you stopped everybody and they didn't do anything, you could harm the kid by making an act. Yeah, but you didn't do anything and 4 people are dead. A bunch of other people are shot. Okay. They didn't respect the teacher. See, here's where I start to get the maddening part of this in here. They didn't respect the teacher enough to go, if one of our peers were concerned enough to stop the day, and that teacher was concerned enough that she showed, or he showed, because they didn't identify whether it was a he or a she, it to the guidance counselors and the dean of schools or the dean of students. Somebody should have said, we need to trust our peer. And that did not happen. And do you know how I know it didn't happen, Robert?
4 people are dead.
Yeah, that's how I know it didn't happen. Okay. And we have this circular logic in the Western world, but especially in America, where everything comes in with a built-in excuse. Like the buck stops here. Okay. Now, when lawsuit time comes, and lawsuit time will come, I hope every one of those people who thought those were video game pictures are brought to the carpet. Because you know what? You're going to occasionally hurt people's feelings when you try to do safety. Okay. And people go, well, you know what? If he drew some very violent pictures. Let me start all over again. He drew some very violent pictures in which a professional teacher, who probably, believe it or not, has seen a lot and heard even more, okay, stopped their entire day to let everybody know this was a problem, and they chose not to listen to him. The schools are in a very particular situation because most people that work in the schools, and before you think I'm insulting them, I'm not. I mean this as a compliment, are pro-student. They're pro-young people. Those are the exact people you want to work in a school. I don't want a school full of people who hate kids. Okay? I'm here at the school, but I hate these little, right? You want them to be pro-kids, but not to the point where you allow students to put people in danger. Okay? And it happens all the time. And I think as this unfolds, what usually happens is this will be very big news for a week or two, and then it will go completely away. And you will get no background information. As a matter of fact, you go back to the shooting that was in Parkland in Florida. If that deputy had not been such an incredible coward, and for those that don't know that, not to get too lost on it, the Parkland shooting a couple of years ago in Florida, shooter came there and the school resource officer who was working there decided to not do anything.
Yeah,
he's useless. That drew some more attention to it. And the Parkland people have been pretty vocal. Everybody knew that kid was dangerous. 2 young lady students went in there and told everybody right around the time this was happening that this guy is dangerous. The school administrators who got that information lied to everybody. Okay. There's so much going on in the schools, whether it's critical race theory, you got school shootings, fill in the blanks of all the other things. That a lot of our kids leave school and they can't read and write. Okay. Don't even get me on whether or not they can do math. Okay. They can't read and write. I think maybe for the first time in 2021 that you're having adults really begin to look at things and go, what is really happening in the school? What's going on? And of course, I've been waiting for them to start charging parents because most of these kids, that's where they got their weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And the parents, I don't know what they were thinking, but that one's going to be very, very interesting how that pulls off. Now, change gears. Our favorite anchor, Chris Cuomo.
Hired.
We're seeing it.
Yeah, no one was CNN.
I saw some video. They were actually showing it on Fox of him lifting weights and doing some incredibly bizarre behavior.
Must run in the family.
There's something wrong with it. Not me, because I don't know him. But even Clinton, when he was running against his dad, who was the governor of New York too, it kind of makes them like they're shady people.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently the two brothers are just weirder than all weird. It was weird. Tucker Carlson on CNN, Tucker Carlson on Fox actually took up for Cuomo and said he had done worse things to get fired, which is possible.
Probably.
But I'm gonna be honest with you. You're not, I like Tucker, but I disagree with him.
Right. He
should have been fired for the other stuff too.
True.
But but some of the lies that he did, like coming out of quarantine, out of the basement. I'm gonna try to find that to put it down there. Because anytime anybody gives you a good CNN story, please, I want to find that link. Right. Coming out of the basement. Maybe I'll find the whole Tucker Carlson thing because he has it. It's so phony and bullshit that I don't watch this station.
Right.
But I just see my wife with kids. I'm in neighbor saw him walking down the street 25 minutes earlier, called him out. Mm-hmm. And I think that was Tucker's thing. He said, look, he's a liar, a thief, and a piece of shit. And that's why you hired him. And now you're going to fire him because he's a liar, cheater, and a piece of shit.
Right. And
that's basically what it was. Here's a hint to CNN who will never watch this. Hire a piece of shit, you get a piece of shit. And when you encourage him to be a piece of shit, he becomes a bigger piece of shit. And that's really what you have with Cuomo. But if I'll try to get the Tucker thing down.
There you go.
But CNN is here's a scary thing. Did you know that was probably their most popular personality?
Yeah, that whole CNN thing, that is scary because Don Lemon is, and so is, you throw in MSNBC and you have a cast of characters of, you're like, who the hell is watching these people? Evidently not many people, but.
Nobody. Listen, I'm careful when I make statements, and we talked about this in the pre-show, but this time it kind of applies. I'm always careful to not make statements about these mysterious elites who control the world.
Yeah.
Even though I kind of believe it. But I'm always careful on our show not to say that.
Right.
But you no longer can deny that ratings matter. If you looked at the ratings for CNN and for MSNBC at night, they're abysmal. Because you can't judge them on 400,000 people watch. They're on every TV in this country. Yeah. And they can't break those views. And so what it is whatever agenda they're selling, whatever that crap stain is that they're selling.
Yeah.
It's what people who have an agenda that they push, wants them to do. Because they're not on TV because they're generating any ratings, because they're not. They're generating no ratings. I'll tell you another thing too. The ratings are harder to find. Look, I used to be able to just touch in ratings on Google.
Yeah.
And boom, you'd get ratings. Now you have to kind of filter through some stuff.
Right.
Okay, because Google's got their own world. Not that Google is a friend of Two Average jokes, okay?
That.
But you know what else gets incredibly bad ratings, horrible ratings, shit ratings? Anything that ESPN does that isn't about an actual sport.
As it should, right?
No, if you watch them, go look at the ratings, and I'm not going to put all that crap down there because it'll take me 20 hours to find it because they hide it.
Right.
The ratings for ESPN daytime programming, when you think they're on every cable channel, is abysmal. Now, don't get me wrong, ESPN's not getting canceled because they're doing the same thing CNN is. They got an agenda, and they're letting these people talk because that's what they want out there. But they're not making any money. They make their money from that pregame show that people are probably watching while we're taping this.
Right.
That they do on ESPN, that after show, but where they really make their money is showing football.
Right.
Okay. That's where they make their money. They make money showing football. They don't make money with people talking about it. I got this on another video, but Justin Fields, and if you're not a sports fan, you don't know who he is. And 5 years from now, even sports fans don't know who he is. But he used to be the quarterback at Ohio State, and they made him the quarterback of, they drafted him number 1 with the Bears. And the Bears are a team that is a traditional team full of a lot of history, but no success much since World War II. But they'll quote me on it.
Right. Right.
I'm not saying you haven't won much, but the last time you won a whole lot, people had a leather helmet. Okay.
Right.
But the Bears have a little mystique to them. The mystery is why, but they have some mystique to them. Right. I remember they talked for 45 minutes that they had named Justin Fields starting quarterback. That's a 5-minute story. If you're in Chicago, it's 10.
If that, right.
Okay. And I'm like, nobody's watching this. Nobody in their right mind could be sitting here going, you know what I want to watch? I want to watch you just talk stupid stuff. And don't even get me, we're not talking about politics now.
Right.
But LeBron James, it's like, dude, when he retires, I hope you can find somebody else.
Yeah.
LeBron today, and I'm not talking politics because I don't like his politics, but I'm not talking that. It's like, LeBron today at 3 a.m. this morning awoke to have a bowel movement.
Right.
Panel, bowel movement, big or small.
Right. Right.
Well, Jim, I know LeBron. I was on the phone with him at the time. Large bowel movement.
Right.
Brutally large. I'm wondering if the bowel movement wasn't so big that he will injure himself and not be able to play today. And then there'll be the other person. I don't know LeBron as well as they do, but I think it was a tiny one, and I think he's going to be okay.
Right.
How many people watch this show? Fucking nobody. Because if you get 300,000 views when you're on every TV, that's 0.
Right.
And there you go. So that's what we're dealing with. So there you go. Hope you don't like LeBron, but if you do, I don't care about his bowel movements or whether or not he's,
right.
in protocol and kind whatsoever. So there you go on that. So it's curious to see what's big on TV, but ratings do not matter.
Right.
They don't matter. So you had some news about Joe Biden you want to talk about since I've been on a rant the first half of this show.
Right. Yeah, I wanted to circle back because the school shooting thing is symptomatic of what's happening in our democracy. And Joe Biden came out with some kind of lame, I don't know what summit, I guess they called it, of threats to democracy, and Trump came out and said, well, Biden is probably the big threat. Currently.
I find it ironic that Joe Biden was talking about threats to democracy while his picture was on.
Right. But so, we have this, and we talk about it in almost every show, this erosion of our rights. And So I believe, and we had talked about it when you were here, that Michigan is kind of the canary in the coal mine because we seem to keep hitting these elements of what's happening in the nation. And I'm not sure whether parents have been charged in other states when these criminally charged,
right,
when these shootings occur. And there's a weight of, you weigh the right versus the harm to society. And that's what you were talking about as far as this is a tragedy, a horrible freaking tragedy that was probably preventable if somebody would have stepped the fuck up, right?
right.
And because we're in this woke time of, I don't know where we're between the devil and the deep blue sea in the United States as far as what our democracy is and where it's heading. I mean, we are supposed to be, or we used to be, kind of a beacon of hope. That's why people get on rafts and doors and stuff and try to get across our borders and stuff.
Hold on, Robert. Hold on. That's not true. Our country is racist and horrible.
There we go. And that's what they're selling across the world. And that's what.
That's why they're on doors to get to us.
Trying to get over here, right? Yeah. And we used to be that. And now we're struggling internally. And the struggle is, I think the struggle is small percentage wise, but right. Because the media has the what do you call it? The bullhorn. Right. Then they can say how racist we are and how against which is not even true, you know, and they don't supply any kind of scientific or proof of that. They just say, hey, critical race theory is a thing. We're bigoted, we're homophobic, we're xenophobic, and we're none of that.
Right. I mean, and there's 8 million people at the border trying to sneak in.
That's exactly right.
They're horrible. They're sneaking in.
So these school shootings, and there's a ripple effect on our constitutional rights that I don't think, because that gives the gun lobby, against the gun lobby, a megaphone to say, hey, look, these kids are getting guns and going into schools and killing people. Well, that was a parental issue, which goes back to can you spank your kids issue, which goes back to, that's what I'm saying about the systematic failure of our system as we are moving forward. And I don't know how we heal ourselves. How do we get beyond all this stuff? And so the democracy side of it, which is anytime they say democracy, I go, oh shit, something bad's going to happen. And so when Biden is saying it's a threat to democracy, I'm sure they're going to point at Trump because he's the biggest threat, Well, I said January 6th, they're prosecuting Trump's lawyers. And, that's the beginning of the end. When you start prosecuting lawyers, and they've already raided Giuliani and his previous lawyer, there was supposed to be a sacrosanct thing where you don't attack lawyers unless they're doing something, fraudulent and criminal or something like that. But they have now lowered the bar. Yeah. Politically to go after lawyers. And when you do that, that is the threat to democracy and so now they're attacking the Supreme Court because they're talking about the abortion aspect of Roe v. Wade. They're attacking the police, defund the police. I just saw an article yesterday where Seattle or whoever is defunding the police again, which is always brilliant, right?
Yeah, that's always smart.
But anyway, what's your take on all of that?
Yeah, I'm with you. I think first off, I think this is where a cynical listener would go, well, they probably did something wrong. That's why they FBI. Look, you leave lawyers alone.
Try to.
Okay. That was actually sacred. Now, here's what my worry is that Donald was such this bombastic president. He was just this blast. He's like a nuclear blast. And so all the aftermath that comes out of him, people that didn't like Donald Trump will do stupid stuff like go, well, his attorney probably did something. Well, you know what? You really don't want to go down that road because everybody's lawyer might have done something that somebody don't like politically. And that's really what you're talking about here. Yeah. And I sometimes worry about Donald Trump's presidency, not from what he did or did not do, but the bomb blast that it was.
Yeah.
Where you can go and start the first time. And of course, the guy rolled on Donald, his attorney, so I'm not impressed with him, but
right.
he should have never have been raided. He should have never, Giuliani should have never had his stuff done, Yeah. And we turned the FBI and the CIA over to people who probably have no business having it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of why when we did our last episode about knowing your rights, and we're going to revisit some of that stuff regularly.
Yeah.
Look, you just need to know your rights. You need to know what your rights are. If there is anything that I thought that when they did the Patriot Act, which again, we have discussed, anytime they tell you it's about being a patriot, it's probably not.
Yeah. It's opposite what they name it usually.
Well, with the Patriot Act, what Americans did, we were all just stunned by what happened on 9/11. I was law enforcement at the time. I knew what happened. We were stunned for years.
Yeah.
And then everybody thought, well, Obama will get in there and he'll help. Well, Obama actually made it worse.
He did.
Okay. He made the rules about that worse. And now what happens is everybody is bombarded. They're crazy. There's 911. And you think, well, we're going to go after those dirty terrorists, those Muslim terrorists. We're going to go after them. They're not going to use that on everybody. They're not going to use that on Americans. Wrong.
Yeah.
Totally wrong. And if we had been smart and we all got caught, and I'm not insulting, but because 911 is interesting because I actually taught teenagers who weren't alive for 911.
Right.
But for those of us that were alive, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But the problem that happens is that we didn't think that they were going to take those rules and turn them against America.
Yeah. The FISA courts were a fiasco, man. So, who set up a secret court that's not got oversight of any type? Well, what could possibly go wrong?
Didn't they do some of that with Donald Trump? Use that stuff?
They did. They used the FISA courts against him. Yeah.
Yeah, they used the FISA courts against Donald Trump. And my liberal friends were, that's all right, because that was Donald Trump. They won't do that to me. Yeah, right. There's us and them. And I got something to say because probably one liberal every 6 months watch our show.
If that, right?
Okay, but some conservatives may not. There is an us against them situation. Okay. And if you don't know who us is and them are, you're an us.
Right.
Regardless of your political persuasion, you're an us.
It's kind of like the saying.
Them. And even if you said, hey, look at me, I'm with them, you're not a member of their club.
Right.
George, we have talked about this on numerous occasions privately, but I think it's a good way to bring all this together.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Two of our favorite comedians who we think were funny until they weren't, were extremely, extremely liberal, and their view of the world was incorrect. They were funny and their shock value was good. And the first one is one of my favorites, which is Bill Hicks. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the other one was George Carlin, who really, George at the end wasn't funny either because he kind of got just lost in saying the same stuff all over again. And then
Right.
Bill Hicks wasn't funny at the end for me because he just seemed to be angry.
Yeah.
Yeah, just yelling at the audience. You know what I mean? I was like, somewhere down the line, I would like to laugh. I didn't buy a ticket, right? And both of them would have told you that they weren't there to be funny, but they put out comedy out. But that's neither here nor there. But I would be curious to see if both of them had lived, especially Bill Hicks, who died at 32.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I will guarantee you, both of them, to their dying day, believed that the biggest threat to America and freedom were Christian conservatives. Neither one of them ever got canceled. In other words, they talked all the craziness they wanted and never got canceled.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of those son of a guns would get canceled.
Big time.
And it wouldn't be, and their enemy wouldn't be who they thought they were.
Right.
And I would have been curious to see if they had lived through that. To first off, would they admit it? Oh shit! I had no clue this was the enemy.
Right.
I didn't know. I thought Pat Robertson was going to get me. No, actually, when Christians were the majority thing, they pretty much believed in free speech, and you said what you wanted.
Yeah.
Now they're not in charge at all, and if you don't say the right thing, they will cancel you. But both of them had some great things. First off, Kennedy assassination. Check out what Bill Hicks had to say.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. Yeah, I'm not going to tell his jokes because I can't tell them as well as he can, but
Right.
I will share you this one. He goes, they went, I'm going to paraphrase Bill. They went through painstaking effort to make the book depository totally accurate, like the day of the assassination of John F. Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
Oswald wasn't in the window now.
Right. Yeah, he has a long litany on that.
It's great, but like that. Oswald isn't in the window now either.
Right.
Okay. But the other interesting one was George Carlin. And George Carlin had a running gag on a lot of things that would be considered conservative now, and he'd probably get canceled. But this one is the best one he did. He goes, there's a big club that runs America, and we're not members. I don't know why people forgot that. There's a big club that runs America, and you're not a member.
Right.
I don't show this to the most liberal person that you know, and I will assure you, you're not a member either. My conservative friends are not members. My liberal friends are not members. Me and Robert are not members.
Right.
There's a large club that runs this country, and you're not one of them. And I think both of them were very, 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 very brilliant. Their perception of who the enemy to free speech was totally incorrect. They were totally off the mark. They shit themselves. They were that wrong. Okay. Mm. But their view of what was going on in America was really correct. So they're in that strange position that you have to remember they're talking in the 90s. They're talking in the early 2000s. They're victims of their own culture. They're victims of their own time. And that's really what was important. You know, I remember people saying, and you and me, I'll finish it on this. We used to say, if you don't like what was on TV, unplug your set, turn the channel. Don't go to that movie.
Right.
You can't say that anymore. Oh, Joe, you're a hard person. So I'll get your opinion on this.
Well, the interesting thing now is, okay, so I've always thought that the comedians were the truth tellers to power.
Correct.
And once you muzzle that, then First Amendment is dying a slow death. Okay. So, and we have talked about the Lenny Bruce syndrome that all of these comedians, I guess they reach either the pinnacle of popularity or whatever, or they start believing their own bullshit. But kind of Chappelle is kind of there. I mean, you know, when you lose the funny, you lose your audience. But so he has come on the chopping block for some transphobic, supposedly jokes that were funny that the trans community does not like, you know, but every time you tell a joke, somebody is going to be injured. All right. I mean, unless you make it so innocuous that it's not even funny. But So now we have Chappelle who's fighting back against that, the trans community that's coming after him. And then you also have Bill Maher that for whatever reason has become conservatively, and which is crazy as hell, right?
I'm agreeing with Bill Maher. That's all.
When we're agreeing with Bill Maher, then we're into the twilight zone of Never Neverland. And I think a lot of comedians are now suppressing what their comedy is, and that is what I mean. It's supposed to be a debate or a intellectual exchange of ideas, and the only way you can do it is by telling fat jokes and whatever, and you're going to hurt somebody's feelings,
Yeah,
you know?
you can't tell fat jokes anymore.
Right.
You know, I mean,
And we both were fat. We both been fat.
I've been fat, you know, I swear to God, it's the truth. But here's a weird thing, and I want to end our show on this because we're a little older than some of our audience. Okay.
Yeah.
Me and Robert in 1976 would have been considered being pretty much a classic hippie liberal.
Yep.
We wouldn't have believed in government. We wouldn't have believed in the government getting involved in your life. We wouldn't have believed in being canceled. We would have been strict believers in First Amendment rights.
Yes.
Okay. We would have thought that the government's probably lying if they're moving their lips. Okay.
True.
We would think that there was a group of people who wanted to destroy our freedoms. Okay. We believe the exact same thing, and now we are right-wing conservative.
Yeah.
And we haven't changed our belief system at all.
Not at all.
It's the craziest thing. It's like when Big Bird was getting the vaccine, right?
No shit.
Big Bird was getting the vax, telling the little kids, get the vax. And Big Bird got it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
A classic hippie liberal would have saw that as government manipulation of children.
Yes.
And we would have been like, what's the government doing trying to manipulate children? That's a parental thing.
Yeah.
That's hippie liberal 1970. 1970s. That's hippie liberal, right?
Yeah.
And now I got guys that think they're hippie liberals going, I think that Big Bird should do that.
You're right.
You know what? You have become a government tool.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad to watch it because I don't think you and me have changed our views. We've talked about that on numerous occasions.
Yeah, we haven't. And it's kind of like my dad's skinny tie. I think I've told you this 100 times, but my dad used to wear skinny ties most of his life.
Right.
I'm like, Dad, those skinny ties are out of vogue. He's like, oh, they'll come back. And they have like 3 or 4 times, right?
At least 3 or 4 times.
Skinny ties.
That's right.
And that's where we're at.
Skinny ties were seen as bad. And then the 80s, everybody showed up with the skinny tie.
Right.
It just rotates. But it is weird to see what's considered to be liberal now because most of it is actually anti-free speech.
Yeah.
Anti-free thought. It's to be honest with you, everything that I thought made America great. And it's not their ideas. It's the stifling of other people's ideas.
That's it. That's what we're based on. That's what we stand for.
I'm not going to agree with probably most liberal nonsense, but I will defend your right to say it.
Yeah.
All I'm asking you is to be an American and respect people's First Amendment rights.
Yes.
And if you can't understand that, then you're not an American.
Yeah.
People get to say what they want. Okay. And if it hurts your feelings, turn to TV. Don't go to the movie. Don't do any of that. Look, this is going to sound vicious. The average program on TV that's on regular mainstream TV is written for about a 9th grade level. Maybe.
If that. Yeah.
The dialogue sucks. The acting sucks. The writing sucks. And to be honest with you, the production sucks. Okay. That's why everybody's on Netflix and all these other things. If you just turn on like CBS, it's like, holy cow, what did you do?
Right.
Hire homeless people to run this, right?
Right.
But you know what? I don't sit there every day and go, that's against, and some of them are totally against my view. I don't do that. You know what I do? I don't watch them.
Right.
And part of it is, it's kind of funny because I wouldn't say I tried, but somebody one time showed me the show has been really popular on TV. And I was like, this may be, I have to leave now because I feel my IQ falling. I'm getting dumber every day.
Right.
But you didn't say don't watch that or take that off TV or nothing. Huh.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. You can watch it. You can watch Big Bird, get vaccinated for the 36th time. You get his 36th booster. That's your business.
Right.
I'm not saying taking it off. I'm just not saying I have to agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Well, look, man, it's getting close to the holiday, so everybody needs to go out there and do what they got to do.
True
Be
that.
careful out there. Most of you will probably be shopping online anyways.
Right.
Amazon, I'd like to thank you for your holiday cheer.
Yeah.
Just saying. But look, it was good. So we'll get back together next week, and everybody have a great week, and we'll see you soon.
See ya.